The pass gave them back to the world like a reluctant throat releasing what it had tried to swallow. Sand still skittered across the stone in thin, angry sheets, and the air tasted dry and bruised, as if the storm had scraped the sky raw. Jon walked beside the dragon at first, because his legs were still shaking from the ride and because the beast's presence felt safer near than above. Its steps were heavy and measured, claws clicking against stone. Each breath steamed faintly even in heat, smoke curling like a lazy warning. Arianne rode close, her gaze never leaving the dragon for long, as if she feared it might decide in some sudden moment to return to the mountain and the chains it had torn apart. Her hair was still stiff with sand. A shallow cut ran along her cheekbone where grit had carved her during the storm. She had not bothered to wipe the blood away. Suited her. She looked like a woman marked by the desert and not diminished by it. Ser Dayron's sand moved ahead, eyes scanning the ridgelines. He walked with the weary purpose of a man who had carried a secret for too long and now felt its weight shifting into the hands of strangers. Every so often his burned face turned toward the dragon, and Jon caught the expression. Fear, yes, but threaded with a grim, reluctant pride, as if a vow had finally found its ending. Ariohoda stayed near Arianne, silent as stone, long axe balanced across his shoulder. The Dornish guards kept their distance, not from Jon, but from the dragon. Even those who had seen it in the hollow moved like men walking past a sleeping pit viper, quiet, careful, eyes wide. They did not speak much. Words were poor things beside what had happened. The dragon's shadow slid across rock and sand like a moving dusk, and each time it passed over a man, the man flinched as if reminded of how small he was. When the pass widened and the desert opened again, the dragon lifted its head and tasted the wind. Jon felt it before he saw it, the shift in the creature's attention, the restlessness under its scales, like a warhorse catching the scent of blood. Its wings flexed, half unfolding, and the sound was like leather dragged over stone. Jon lifted his burned hand, palm outward. "No," he said softly, not as a command, but as a tether. "Stay." The dragon's amber eye slid to him. For a heartbeat, Jon felt that strange pressure again, the sense of a mind brushing against his like hot iron. Then the dragon exhaled, smoke curling, and lowered its head. The wings folded back in. Arianne watched Jon with something that had changed since Sunspear. Less calculation, more wary respect, as if she had married a man and discovered a storm beneath his skin. "You did that," she said quietly. Jon's voice rasped. "It did," he answered. "It's listening, not to words, to intent." Ser Dayron's sand let out a short, humorless breath. "Intent," he muttered. "That's a prettier word than hunger." They pushed onward. Far ahead, the desert shimmered. Somewhere beyond that shimmer waited the green of canals, the pale walls of Sunspear, and Prince Doran Martell's calm eyes. Eyes that would have to look upon a dragon and decide whether patience could survive it. They reached the first signs of Sunspear's influence before they reached Sunspear itself. The smell of water carried on wind, the sight of orange groves stitched into hard earth like stubborn promises, the canals glittering as if someone had poured liquid glass into the land. News ran ahead of them in the way it always did. A guard on a distant watchtower spotted the shape moving across the dunes and raised an alarm horn. Riders came out to meet them, cloaks flapping, faces tense with questions that died in their mouths when the dragon crested a rise behind Jon. Men reined hard. Horses screamed. One animal bolted so fast its rider fell and rolled in sand. Spears lowered, then trembled, then lowered further, useless against a creature that could swallow a man whole and still be hungry. Jon raised his hand again, feeling the raw skin crack as he did. The dragon's head lowered slightly, not in submission, but in a gesture that felt almost permissive. A breath rolled from its nostrils, hot enough to make men stagger back. Arianne rode forward, voice sharp as a whip. "Hold," she ordered, and the word carried authority that settled the chaos the way a palm settled a restless dog. "No one runs, no one shouts, no one draws steel unless you wish to be the first ash in Dorne." That did it. Men steadied. Horses still shied, but their riders held them. Eyes stayed fixed on the dragon like moths watching flame and knowing better than to touch. Davos Seaworth appeared among the newcomers, having come by a faster route from the coast once the storm broke. His weathered face looked carved from disbelief as he stared up at the beast. He crossed himself without thinking, then seemed to realize the gesture meant nothing here. "Well," he said hoarsely, blinking grit from his eyes. That's a thing." Jon's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "It's real," he said. Davos's gaze snapped to Jon's burned hands, his blistered cheeks. "And you're alive," Davos replied, as if that were the greater miracle. They did not bring the dragon into Sunspear's streets. Even Jon understood that much. A city was a cage of stone and panic, full of narrow alleys that could turn fear into stampede. Instead, Ser Dayron Sand guided them to a rocky ridge above the palace where wind off the sea ran clean and strong. The dragon climbed the ridge with an ease that made Jon's stomach twist. So much power moving with such lazy confidence. It settled there like a great cat, wings partway spread, head angled toward the sea as if remembering old skies. Below, Sunspear began to wake into panic and awe. People poured into courtyards and onto roofs. Fingers pointed upward, mouths formed prayers. Some knelt, others ran. A few stood frozen as if their bodies could not decide whether to worship or flee. Prince Doran Martell was carried out onto a balcony by attendants, his blanket pulled tight, his face pale in the evening light. Yronwood stood behind him, long axe upright, while guards formed a tense ring. From this distance Jon could not see Doran's eyes clearly, but he felt the weight of that gaze land on the dragon like a hand. Arianne dismounted beside Jon, her posture rigid with contained triumph. "He's seeing it," she whispered. Jon watched the balcony. The prince did not flinch. He did not recoil. He simply stared, calm as ever, and Jon felt a strange respect for that steadiness. A dragon was the kind of truth that broke weaker men. Doran lifted one hand, slow, deliberate, and made a small gesture. Not a command, not a threat, an acknowledgement as if saying, "Yes, I see. Yes, it's done. Now we live with it." Arianne let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in her chest for years. Night fell, and the dragon remained on the ridge, a dark mountain against the stars. Its eyes glowed faintly amber when it blinked. The city below simmered with rumor like a pot left too long on fire. And Jon Snow, wolf, king, and something else, stood between the dragon and the palace and felt the realm tilt on a knife's edge. Prince Doran Martell did not keep them waiting long, though the hour was late. They gathered in a council chamber that smelled of lemon oil and old parchment, cool compared to the heat outside. Candles burned low, flames steady, their light painting the room in gold and shadow. A map lay spread across the table, weights holding its corners, stones carved with sun and spear. Doran sat at the head, blanketed, hands folded. His face looked older tonight, as if the sight of the dragon had pressed time into him. Yet his eyes remained clear. Arianne stood to his right, chin lifted. Jon stood opposite, hands bandaged now, though the pain pulsed through cloth. Davos Seaworth hovered near the map, looking as if he expected it to bite. Yronwood remained behind Doran like a statue with a long axe. The sand snakes arrived like a storm of color and danger. Obara Sand wore leather and a grin that did not hide her hunger. Nymeria Sand's eyes were sharp, her smile lazy and lethal. Tyene Sand moved with soft grace, her expression sweet enough to make Jon distrust it instantly. Ser Dayron Sand entered last, his keepers left outside. He stood stiff as if expecting condemnation. Prince Doran studied them all. "The city is frightened," he said quietly. "The city is exhilarated. The city is already inventing stories. We will give it none." "Not yet," Obara snorted. "A dragon on a ridge and you want silence? Good luck." Doran's gaze slid to her. "Luck is for gamblers," he said. "We do not gamble. We calculate." Arianne's voice cut in, sharp with pride. "He did it," she said, nodding to Jon. "He broke the chains. He flew." Nymeria leaned forward, eyes glinting. "Did it burn anyone?" Jon met her gaze. "No," he said. Tyene smiled warmly. "How merciful," she murmured, and Jon heard the question beneath it. "How long will mercy last?" Doran lifted a hand, quieting them. "Jon Snow," he said, "or whoever you truly are, tell me plainly, is the dragon yours?" Jon's throat tightened. He forced the truth out. "It chose me," he said. "I can call it, calm it, not control it the way men control dogs. But it listens."
Seda erun sans mo twista.
"It listens for now." Doran's eyes flicked to Daron. "And you," he said softly, "did you keep your vow?" Daron's shoulders squared. "I did," he answered. "I brought them in. I did not kill him. And now the dragon is free." Abara laughed once, harsh. "Free," she repeated. "Or loose." Arianne's hand slammed onto the map. "Enough," she snapped. "If you're afraid, admit it. But don't pretend you're wiser than this moment. The realm has been ruled by lions because everyone else stayed polite. We have fire now." Doran's gaze did not harden, but the air cooled. "Fire burns the hand that holds it," he said. "And we are not children playing at power." Arianne's jaw clenched. Jon watched the exchange and realized this was the true marriage in Dorne, the marriage between patience and fury. Doran had built their survival on restraint. Arianne wanted action. Davos cleared his throat, stepping into the space between father and daughter. "Begging your pardon, your grace, prince," he corrected quickly. "But if there's a dragon, the rest of the realm will learn soon enough. You can't hide a shadow that big." Doran nodded slowly, conceding the point without surrendering control. "No," he agreed. "We cannot hide it forever, so we choose how it is revealed. And to whom?" Nymeria's fingers tapped the table. "To the Iron Throne," she said. "As a threat." Tyene tilted her head. "Or to the Faith," she whispered. "Let them scream about demons and witches. Fear spreads faster than ravens." Abara grinned. "Or we fly it straight over King's Landing and watch the lions piss themselves." Arianne's eyes flashed with something close to delight at that thought. Doran's voice stayed calm. "We do none of those things tonight," he said. "Tonight we decide one simple truth. What do we want?" Silence fell. Jon looked down at the map. The lines felt suddenly small. The world had expanded above it, wings and flame and sky. "We want the realm alive," Jon said finally. "We want the dead stopped. Everything else is noise." Abara's grin faded a fraction. Even Nymeria's eyes sharpened with something more serious. Doran watched Jon for a long moment. "And the lions?" he asked softly. Jon's mouth tightened. "If they stand in the way," he said, "they burn." Arianne's gaze slid to Jon, measuring, satisfied, a little frightened by how easily the words came. Doran exhaled. "Then we move," he said. "But we move as Dorne, not as a dragon's whim." He touched the map with one thin finger, tracing from Sunspear along the coast. "Ravens go tonight," he said, "to Winterfell, to the Stormlands, to any lord who might still remember what honor is. And scouts ride at dawn. If the realm has already shifted, we will not be caught watching." Ser Daron Sand spoke, voice rough. "And the dragon?" Doran's eyes lifted. "We name it," he said. "A name is a tether, not a chain, but a beginning." Arianne's lips parted. "Sunsorrow," she said, and the word carried both pride and grief, both Sun and the memory of what Sun had done to them. The room held its breath. Jon felt the name settle like a weight. Sunsorrow, a reminder that fire was never pure joy in Dorne. It was also pain. Doran nodded once. "Sunsorrow," he agreed. Somewhere above, far off, a low rumble rolled through stone, like the dragon had heard and approved, or like it had simply reminded them that no name could truly contain what it was. By morning, Sunspear's rumor had become a fever. They brought the Dornish lords into the throne hall under the pretense of urgent counsel. but everyone knew why they had been called. Men arrived in silks and sand-colored cloaks, faces tight, eyes bright with fear and hunger. House Dane's pale eyes watched from shadow. House Fowler's hawk-nosed lord whispered behind a hand. House Yronwood came with the weight of old pride and old grievance. Lord Anders Yronwood stood near the front, broad-shouldered, his expression carved from stone. His son hovered behind him, eyes wary, hand never far from sword hilt. Jon remembered the stories. Yronwood, the blood royal, long rival to Martell, long resentful of Sunspear's dominance. Prince Doran sat beneath a canopy, blanket over his legs, calm as ever. Hoda stood behind him. Arianne stood forward, not seated, making it plain to everyone that she was the voice today. Jon stood at her side, black among bright colors, bandaged hands held still. He felt the weight of eyes land on him like thrown stones. Some stared at his face as if searching for dragonfire there. Others stared with open calculation, imagining what a dragon could do for their own grudges. Arianne lifted her chin. "You have heard," she said, voice carrying without strain. "You have whispered, you have prayed. Now you will listen." Murmurs rose, then died. "The realm is breaking," Arianne continued. "The Iron Throne is weak. The Reach is restless. The Stormlands bleed. And the North fights a war the rest of you have pretended is a northern tale." Lord Anders Yronwood's mouth tightened. "We are Dorne," he said. "We do not chase northern ghosts." Jon's gaze sharpened, but he did not speak. Arianne's eyes snapped to Yronwood. "Then you will die comfortable and ignorant," she said. "Or you will open your eyes." A ripple ran through the hall. Shock, amusement, anger. Doran's voice came softly, and the hall bent toward it. "My daughter speaks harshly," he said, "because the world is harsh. Lord Yronwood, we have no time for pride." Yronwood's gaze slid to Doran, then to Jon. "And this," he said, disdain threading his tone, "is your answer? A northern bastard wearing a crown he didn't earn." Arianne's hand went to her dagger hilt, but Jon placed his bandaged hand lightly on her wrist, steadying. He met Yronwood's stare. "I earned every inch of what I have," Jon said, voice low but carrying. "In snow and blood." Yronwood snorted. "And now you bring fire to Dorne." Doran's eyes lifted, calm and sharp. "Fire has always been in Dorne," he said. "We simply chose not to let others hold it." Arianne took a breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was quieter, more dangerous. "The dragon is real," she said. "Its name is Sunsorrow, and it will not be used to settle old Dornish squabbles. It will be used to keep Dorne alive." A lord in green silk laughed nervously. "A name," he said. "We are meant to believe this because you name it?" Arianne's smile was thin. "No," she said. "You are meant to believe it because it is perched above your city right now, and if it flaps its wings too hard, half your roof tiles will shatter." Uneasy laughter died quickly. Lord Yronwood's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Arianne's gaze held his. "Then you are welcome to stand alone when winter comes," she said. "Welcome to explain to your sons why pride mattered more than breath." The hall shifted. Men glanced at one another, measuring. Jon could feel the change, the slow turning of fear into alignment, not loyalty but survival. Doran lifted his hand. "There will be no civil war in Dorne," he said quietly. "Not while I breathe. We will stand together, or we will not stand at all." Silence settled, heavy. Jon saw Lord Yronwood's jaw work. Pride fought reality behind his eyes. At last he gave a stiff incline of his head. Not kneeling, not surrendering, but conceding the shape of the world. Arianne exhaled slowly. Jon felt her wrist relax under his hand. The first wall had been climbed. Not conquered, not yet, but climbed. And above them, unseen in the bright hall, a dragon waited like a shadow with teeth. Training was not glamorous. It was bruises and fear and stubborn repetition. They took Sunsorrow away from the city each day, out beyond the canals where dunes rolled like frozen waves and the wind ran clean. Ser Doran Sand insisted on it, his burned face hard with experience. "A dragon does not learn in a cage," he said, "and men do not learn around panicked small folk." Jon learned quickly that riding a dragon was nothing like riding a horse. A horse wanted to be guided. A dragon wanted to be respected. There was no gentle coaxing, no soft pat that meant obedience. Every movement was negotiation with a creature that could choose to end you in a heartbeat. Sunsorrow tolerated Jon's presence in a way it tolerated no one else. That truth did not comfort Jon as much as it should have. It meant the dragon's attention was locked on him, and attention from a dragon was always dangerous. Arianne tried to approach once, slow and careful, palms open. Sunsorrow's head swung toward her, eyes narrowing, and heat rose in the air like a threat. Jon stepped between them instinctively, and the dragon's gaze slid back to him, the tension easing. Arianne's face tightened with frustration. "It thinks I'm prey," she said. "It thinks you're not me," Doran Sand replied bluntly. "Be grateful. It spares you the confusion." Obara Sand watched with a grin that didn't hide her excitement. "If it ever lets me near, I want to see if it likes spears," she said. Doran Sand shot her a look. "It likes meat," he said. "Try not to volunteer." Jon's first attempt to mount Sunsorrow properly ended with him thrown into sand hard enough to knock breath from his lungs. The dragon had flexed one shoulder and simply rolled him off, as if annoyed by a fly. Arianne rushed toward him, anger and concern tangled, but Jon waved her back, coughing grit. He forced himself up on shaking legs and faced the dragon again. Sunsorrow stared, amber eye bright, head slightly tilted as if amused. Jon spat sand, wiped blood from his lip, and stepped forward again. He learned the ridges along the dragon's neck, where scales rose like natural handholds. He learned where heat vented when the creature grew irritated. Beneath the jaw, along the throat, a faint glow warning of fire. He learned to watch the tail because a casual flick could break bones. Doran Sand barked instructions until his voice cracked. "Not there. You're not climbing a wall, wolf. You're climbing a living storm. Feel its breath. Feel its mood." Jon's hands burned under bandages, but he climbed again. He moved slower this time, matching his breath to the dragon's. He pressed his forehead briefly to warm scale, not in worship, but in acknowledgement. "I'm not your master," he whispered. "I'm your rider. We move together." Sunsorrow exhaled, smoke curling over Jon's hair, and did not throw him off. Jon got one knee over the shoulder ridge, then the other. He settled low, heart hammering, legs tight. The dragon's muscles shifted beneath him like earth moving. Arianne watched from the edge of the dunes, eyes narrowed against wind, hands clenched so tightly her knuckles whitened. Jon could feel her fear, though she tried to bury it. Sunsorrow rose, slowly, and Jon rose with it, balancing. For the first time he felt what it meant to sit on that power without being immediately rejected. The dragon beat its wings once, testing, and sand blasted outward in a harsh ring. Obara laughed, delighted. Hoda held his stance, cloak snapping, eyes steady. Jon leaned forward and placed one hand on the ridge. "Easy," he murmured. Sunsorrow's head turned slightly, the amber eye flicking back toward him. Then it faced the horizon again, wings flexing, and Jon felt the creature's impatience. Its desire for sky. He swallowed, breath tight. "Not yet," he whispered. "Soon." And for the first time, Sunsorrow waited. That night, the water gardens were empty. Children had been kept inside since the dragon's arrival, not because Doran feared the beast would swoop down. Sunsorrow had not returned near the gardens since training began, but because fear made men stupid, and Doran would not risk a frightened guard loosing an arrow at a shadow. Jon walked beneath an arcade where moonlight spilled across stone and turned the pools into silver mirrors. His hands throbbed under bandages. His face still carried the raw sting of scorched skin. He felt tired in a way sleep didn't fix. Arianne found him there, moving quietly, her sandals barely making sound. Her hair was braided now, neat again, but her eyes held the same restless fire. "You didn't come back to the chamber," she said. "I couldn't sleep," Jon admitted. Arianne leaned on a stone railing and stared at the water. "Neither can Sunspear," she said. "The city is whispering like a nest of snakes. Some are proud. Some are terrified. Some are already wondering if they can steal what we have." Jon's jaw tightened. "They can't." Arianne's gaze slid to him. "Can't?" she echoed softly. "Or won't?" Jon held her eyes. "Won't." Arianne nodded once, as if that answer mattered more than any oath spoken in the Sun Court. Then her voice dropped, quieter. "When you were in the cavern," she said, "I thought I'd done it. I thought I'd played my game too boldly and gotten you killed." Jon's chest tightened. "You didn't." Arianne's mouth twisted. "I did," she said, and for a moment her confidence cracked just enough for truth to show through. "I pushed. I wanted it. I wanted the realm to see Dorne again. I wanted my father's patience to mean something. And I wanted to know if you were real." Jon stepped closer, his bandaged hand lifting slowly. He touched the cut on her cheek with his thumb, gentle. "I'm real," he said. Arianne's breath hitched, almost imperceptible. She did not lean away. She leaned into the touch as if she hated needing it but needed it anyway. "You're going to change everything," she whispered. Jon's voice was rough. "I don't want to," he said. "I wanted to keep people alive. That's all. But the world keeps handing me crowns and fires as if duty is a joke." Arianne's eyes gleamed in moonlight. "Duty is never a joke," she said. "It's the chain we choose." Jon's mouth tightened. "And if the chain breaks?" Arianne stepped closer until the space between them held only warm breath. "Then we forge a new one," she murmured. Jon looked at her and saw the woman beneath the princess, the air beneath the armor. He saw fear there, but he also saw resolve like tempered steel. She would not run from the storm they had made. She would stand in it and dare it to break her. "I will not burn King's Landing for vengeance," Jon said suddenly, because he needed her to hear it now, before temptation made the words harder. "Not for Elia. Not for anyone. I won't become that." Arianne's gaze held his, sharp and searching. For a heartbeat Jon thought she might argue, might demand blood, might call him weak. Instead she nodded slowly. "Good," she said, surprising him. "Because if you become a monster, I will have to become one too to match you. And I'm tired of monsters." Jon's breath left him in a slow release he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Arianne lifted her hand and touched his bandaged fingers. "You hurt," she said. "I'll heal," Jon replied. Her smile was faint. "That's what you always say," she murmured, and there was something like affection in it now, reluctant and real. Jon leaned down and kissed her, gentle this time, careful of her cut. Arianne kissed him back, and for a brief moment the world shrank to moonlight and water and the soft rustle of orange leaves. Then, far off, a low rumble rolled from the ridge above the city. Sunsorrow was awake. Jon felt the sound vibrate in his chest and knew sleep would not come easy for any of them. Not anymore. Ravens left Sunspear before sunrise. Jon wrote with his left hand because his right was too stiff with pain, and the letters came out rougher than he liked. The maester offered to write for him, but Jon refused. If he was going to tell Sansa what had happened, the words needed to come from his own hand, imperfect as it was. Davos stood nearby, arms folded, watching the ink dry as if he could see consequences in it. Arianne leaned over Jon's shoulder, her presence warm and steady, reading as he wrote without interrupting. The room smelled of wax and feather and citrus oil, and outside the window the city murmured like a living thing. Jon told Sansa the truth, as much as truth could be put into ink. He told her Dorne had joined them. He told her Doran Martell was cautious but committed. He told her there was a dragon. He could not bring himself to write the name at first, as if naming it on parchment would make it too real, too impossible. Then he forced it down. Sunsorrow. He told her he had claimed it. The quill trembled slightly as he wrote that line, and Jon realized his hands were shaking. Not fear now, not awe. the weight of what it meant. The moment he wrote it, it became part of the world in a way that could not be undone. Ink was another kind of chain. Arianne's fingers brushed his shoulder lightly. "She will believe you?" she asked quietly. Sansa was not a fool, Jon thought. Sansa had survived kings and monsters and had learned to read men the way others read books. "She'll believe me," he said. "But she'll worry." Davos grunted. "As she should," he muttered. "Dragons make men stupid." Arianne's mouth tightened. "Men were stupid long before dragons," she said. Davos gave her a sideways look that held grudging respect. He conceded. "But dragons make their stupidity louder." They sealed the letter with direwolf wax, and then, at Doran's insistence, placed the Martell seal beside it, sun and spear pressed into red. Two symbols on one truth. Other ravens carried other messages. Doran wrote to the Stormlands, to the Reach, to any lord who might still have spine enough to stand against the Iron Throne. Nymeria Sand's men carried whispers by foot, faster than birds in some places, planting rumor like seeds. Arianne wrote too, her script elegant and sharp. Jon did not ask who received her words. He could guess. Lords who needed persuasion, allies who needed promises, enemies who needed fear. When the last raven was released, it beat black wings into sunrise and vanished into bright sky. Jon watched until it was a speck, then nothing. "You've changed the board," Davos said quietly. Jon's voice was low. "The board was already changing," he replied. Arianne's gaze lifted toward the ridge above Sunspear, where Sunsorrow's shadow sometimes crossed the pale stone like a moving dusk. "Now," she said softly, "everyone will scramble to put their hands on our pieces." Jon's bandaged fingers curled, pain flaring. "Let them come," he said. Arianne looked at him, and for a moment the fierceness in her expression matched his exactly. "They will," she promised. The news came that evening on Nymeria Sand's feet. She arrived without announcement, cloak dusted with road, eyes bright with the gleam of a woman who had outrun something sharp. A cloaked man followed her. One of her little birds, lean and nervous, smelling of sweat and fear. Arianne, Jon, and Doran gathered in a side chamber away from the throne hall's eyes. Davos lingered near the door as if expecting knives. Nymeria didn't bother with preamble. "The Stormlands are moving," she said. "Not Tommen's men, not the Tyrells. Another banner." Doran's fingers tightened slightly on his blanket. "Name it," he said. Nymeria's smile was thin. "A dragon," she said. "Not ours." Jon felt his spine go cold. "Daenerys Targaryen?" he asked, though the name tasted like a legend. Nymeria shook her head. "No." "A boy," she said. "A prince, they say. Aegon Targaryen. Golden company at his back." Silence hit the room like a thrown rock. Doran's eyes closed for a heartbeat, as if he were weighing pain. When he opened them, they were clear. "So," he murmured, "the other game begins." Arianne's breath caught, and Jon felt her tension spike. He knew enough to understand what this meant for her. Books and whispers had spoken of Arianne Martell as the bride meant for a Targaryen restoration. The spear that would pierce the Iron Throne through marriage rather than fire. Nymeria watched Arianne carefully. "They landed near Cape Wrath," she said. "They've taken a castle already, fast, bloody. Lords are wavering. Men love a prince with Sel's words and a story." Davos swore under his breath. "Every time," he muttered. "Every damn time. Another king. Another banner. Another war." Jon's jaw clenched. "If this Aegon is real," he said slowly, "then he has a claim." Doran's voice stayed soft. "Claims are weapons," he said. "Truth is rarer." Arianne's eyes were fixed on the map now, but Jon saw the flicker behind them. Old plans, old temptations, old paths not taken. Nymeria leaned forward, voice lowering. "His envoys are already riding," she said. "To us." Doran's gaze lifted. "Of course," he murmured. Arianne's mouth hardened. "He will ask for Dorne," she said. "He will ask for me." The room held its breath around that sentence. Jon felt something twist in his chest. Part jealousy, part anger, part the cold instinct of a man who understood that marriage was both bond and battlefield. He forced his voice to remain steady. "And what will you answer?" he asked. Arianne turned her head toward him. Her eyes did not soften, but they steadied, as if she were making the choice in that moment rather than letting old dreams choose for her. "I will answer what benefits Dorne," she said. Jon nodded slowly, though the words did not comfort him. Doran watched them both like a man watching a candle near spilled oil. "We must be careful," he said. "If Aegon is false, he is a trap. If he is true, he is still a trap, because the realm will bleed for him." Nymeria's smile flashed, sharp. "We have a dragon now," she said. "Traps burn." Davos looked from face to face. "And the lions?" he asked. "What will Cersei do when she hears a dragon sits above Sunspear?" Nymeria's eyes glittered. "She will send knives," she said simply. "And she will pray those knives find flesh before fire finds her." Arianne's gaze lifted toward the window, toward the ridge where Sunsorrow rested. "Let her pray," Arianne said softly. "Prayers don't stop dragons." Jon did not speak, but he felt the truth settle cold. The world had just become more crowded with claimants and flames, and every new player would try to use Dorne's fire for their own war. They would have to decide who burned first. The knives came sooner than Jon expected. It was night, and the air was heavy, warm enough that torches felt unnecessary. Yet they burned anyway, throwing wavering light across Sunspear's outer courtyard. Jon walked with Arianne and Arianne, returning from a late council with Doran. Guards moved around them in a loose ring, relaxed by familiarity and the false comfort of palace walls. Jon felt the shift to heartbeat before it happened. An absence in the sound of footsteps, a hush too sudden, like the pause before a snake strikes. A shadow dropped from an arch. Steel flashed. A cloaked figure lunged straight for Arianne's throat. Dagger aimed with the clean certainty of a man paid well to end a life quickly. Arianne's eyes widened, but she moved, fast, fierce, twisting away as if her body knew this dance. Jon stepped into the path without thinking. The dagger slammed into his bandaged forearm instead of her neck. Pain flared bright and immediate. Jon grunted, grabbed the attacker's wrist, and felt bone under cloth, thin and hard. The killer tried to twist free, but Jon's grip tightened. Savage. Arianne's long axe came around in a brutal arc. The blade sheared through cloak and flesh. The attacker's head left his shoulders with a wet sound that made Jon's stomach clench even as blood sprayed warm across stone. More shadows erupted. Two men sprang from behind pillars, one with a short sword, one with a crossbow already raised. The crossbow twanged. The bolt hissed past Jon's ear and slammed into a guard's throat. The man dropped, choking, hands clawing uselessly at wood and iron. Obara Sand appeared from nowhere, spear in hand, moving like a predator given permission. She drove the spear through the swordsman's belly and shoved, pinning him to a column with such force the stone cracked. He screamed once, then gurgled as blood flooded his mouth. Arianne drew her dagger and slashed at a second attacker who tried to reach her from the side. She cut his cheek open, then drove the blade into his thigh, twisting. He screamed and fell, scrambling backward. Jon ripped the first attacker's dagger free from his arm with a snarl and slammed the hilt into the man's face. Teeth shattered. The killer reeled. Jon shoved him down and put a boot on his chest. "Who sent you?" Jon growled. The man spat blood and smiled through broken teeth. "A lion," he rasped. Arianne's eyes blazed. "Cersei," she snapped. The killer laughed, then tried to move his hand toward something at his belt. Poison, perhaps. Jon crushed the wrist under his boot until bones snapped. The man screamed, and then the scream turned into something else as heat rolled over the courtyard. Everyone froze. A shadow slid over the stone, vast and sudden. Torches guttered as if bowing. Sunsorrow's roar rolled from above, shaking the courtyard walls. The sound was so huge it did not seem to fit inside the world. Guards dropped to knees without meaning to. The remaining attackers went pale beneath their hoods. The dragon's amber eyes glowed from the ridge, visible even at this distance, and Jon felt the bond in his chest tighten like a hand closing. Sunsorrow inhaled. Arianne's breath caught. "Jon!" she started, fear sharp. Jon lifted his burned, bleeding arm, palm outward toward the ridge. "No," he said hoarsely. "Not here." For a heartbeat he felt resistance, an animal's irritation, a dragon's disdain for restraint. Then Sunsorrow exhaled smoke, not flame. The smoke rolled over the city like a warning, thick and dark, carrying the scent of fire into every open window. The message was clear. Touch them again, and the next breath will be flame. The attackers broke. One turned to run and collided with Arianne's long axe. Another stumbled into Obara's spear. A third tried to leap a wall and fell when a guard's blade found his calf. Within moments, it was over. Bodies lay crumpled in torchlight. Blood pooled dark on stone. Jon's arm throbbed, pain beating in time with his heart. Arianne stepped close, eyes wide, and pressed her hand to Jon's wounded forearm. "Careful. You took it for me," she said, voice low. Jon's jaw tightened. "I wasn't going to let them," he said. Arianne's gaze flicked upward toward the dragon's shadow. "It hurt," she whispered. Jon looked up too. Sunsorrow stood above, wings half spread, watching. Not a beast asleep in chains now, a guardian awake. "Let the realm learn," Jon said quietly, voice like stone. "If they send knives, they'll get fire." Arianne's mouth curved, fierce and grim. "Good," she murmured, "because Dorne is done being patient." Dawn came hard and bright, as if the sun meant to burn away the night's blood. The courtyard had been washed, but the smell lingered. Iron and smoke and fear. Prisoners were dragged below. Dead men were covered. Doran heard everything, even from his chambers, because Sunspear's walls carried whispers the way shells carried sea sound. Jon did not sleep, neither did Arianne. When the first light hit the ridge, Sunsorrow stirred, wings flexing, smoke curling from its nostrils. Jon felt the pull in his chest like a rope tightening around his ribs. The dragon wanted sky, and the city needed a message that no raven could carry as cleanly as shadow. Arianne stood with Doran on the balcony again, her posture rigid with purpose. Doran looked pale, but his eyes were sharp, watching Jon with the calm intensity of a man who knew he had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Davos stood below in the courtyard, face turned upward, squinting as if still unable to accept what he was seeing with his own eyes. Arianne stood at Doran's shoulder like a pillar. Jon approached Sunsorrow slowly, letting the dragon see him, smell him, accept him again. He placed a hand on Warmscale. The beast exhaled smoke across his hair as if marking him. Jon climbed. His bandaged hands screamed with pain as he gripped the ridges, but he did not hesitate. He settled into place, legs tight, chest pressed low. The dragon's muscles shifted beneath him, alive with stored storm. "Up," Jon whispered. Sunsorrow launched with a single powerful beat, and the ground dropped away so fast Jon's stomach lurched. Wind tore at him. The city shrank beneath, pale walls and orange trees becoming patterns on stone. Martell banners snapped like whips. Sunsorrow's shadow swept over Sunspear, and the city reacted as one living thing. Men stopping in streets, children staring upward, guards gripping spears tighter. Some knelt, some raised hands in prayer. Some simply watched, mouths open, as if a dream had cracked into waking. Jon guided the dragon in a wide circle, careful, steady. The beast wanted to climb higher, to vanish into blue. Jon held it low enough that every eye in Sunspear could see, and every envoy, every spy, every whispered little bird that hid in alleys could report the truth. Dorne had a dragon. Jon looked toward the balcony as they passed. Arianne stood beside Doran, hair braided tight, face lifted to wind. She looked like a spear point aimed at the world. Doran's hand lifted slightly, not waving, not cheering, simply acknowledging. Davos watched like a man staring at a storm he'd spent his whole life believing only existed in songs. Sunsorrow roared once, short, sharp, and the sound rolled across the city and out over the sea. It was not an attack. It was a declaration. Jon felt the roar vibrate through his bones and understood, with sudden clarity, what they had done. They had made Dorne impossible to ignore. As the dragon banked, Jon caught sight of a raven rising from the rookery. Black wings beating hard, bearing new ink, new truth, new war. Somewhere far to the north, snow fell against old stone. Somewhere far to the east, men raised banners for another dragon prince. Somewhere in King's Landing, a lioness would hear rumor and bare her teeth. And somewhere beyond the wall, the dead would not care. Jon tightened his legs against Sunsorrow's ridges and leaned forward into the wind. He had fire now. He would need it. Dawn painted Sunspear in the same pale gold it always had, but the city no longer wore the light the way it once did. The brightness felt sharper now, like a blade flashed too close to the eye. Somewhere in the courtyards below, servants scrubbed stone until it looked clean again, yet the smell of blood still lingered in the corners like a truth that refused to be washed away. Prince Doran Martell listened without moving as the last details were laid before him. He sat wrapped in his blanket, hands folded, the calm in his face held like a practiced shield. Arianne stood by the balcony arch, jaw set, eyes fierce. Jon stood opposite, forearm bandaged thick, the cloth already darkening where blood insisted on returning. They carried no banners, Ario Hoda reported, voice steady. No sigils. Their knives were plain. Their tongues were not. Doran's fingers flexed once on the blanket's edge. A lion, he murmured, not asking, not surprised. Arianne's mouth twisted. Cersei Lannister sends her love, she said, and the words were poison. She thinks she can cut my throat and end Dorne's fire before it spreads. Davos Seaworth exhaled through his nose, eyes narrowed. That's how lions think, he said. Claw the cub before it grows. Jon's gaze stayed on the horizon where the sea glittered. He could still feel Sunsorrow's attention on him from the ridge, like a heavy presence pressing into the back of his skull. The dragon had heard the attack. It had answered with smoke. It had wanted flame. Jon had felt the resistance in his bones and realized control was not the right word for what existed between them. It was influence. It was trust that could snap. Doran looked at Jon then, slow and deliberate. If she sends knives, he said softly, she will send more. If she sends more, the city will panic. If the city panics, men will do foolish things. Foolish men create openings. Arianne's fingers curled. Then we make them afraid to open their hands, she said. We show them what they invited. Doran's voice remained quiet. Fire is not a message you send lightly, he said. Arianne stepped closer, her anger controlled now into something sharper. Father, she said, they already sent a message, in blood. You taught me patience. I learned it, but patience is not surrender. Doran watched her a long moment. In the sunlight, his eyes looked tired. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with carrying the same grief too long. No, he agreed. It is not surrender. Jon spoke before the silence could thicken into argument. What do you want me to do? He asked. The question was blunt because he was done with dancing around truth. If the lions want war, they'll get it. But I won't burn Sunspear for their fear. Doran's gaze did not waver. You will not, he said. And neither will I. He shifted slightly, the motion small, but it carried the weight of decision. We respond, he said, not with slaughter, with certainty. Arianne's eyes narrowed. How? Doran lifted one thin finger and traced the air as if drawing lines on an invisible map. We send ravens to King's Landing, he said. Not begging, not threatening, informing. We tell the Queen Regent that any blade drawn within Sunspear again will be answered with fire over her own walls. Davos's mouth tightened. And you think she'll listen? Doran's lips barely moved. No, he said, but those around her will. Men who serve lions are still men. They fear being burned more than they fear disappointing a queen. Arianne's voice cut in cold. "And Aegon," she said, the name like a spark on dry grass. "His envoys will arrive soon. They will hear of the knives. They will smell opportunity." Jon's bandaged hand flexed, pain flaring. "Let them come," he said. "I'll speak to them." Doran's eyes sharpened. "Carefully," he warned. "Aegon Targaryen, true or false, will come wrapped in story. Men will die for story. A dragon complicates story. 2 dragons turn it into war." Jon held Doran's gaze. "Then we make the story simple," he said. "The dead are coming. Anyone who wants to fight over chairs can do it after we're alive to sit in them." Arianne looked at him then, and something in her expression softened into grim agreement. Doran nodded slowly, as if tasting the shape of the future. "Very well," he said. "Then we prepare to receive princes and lions both." Outside, far above the balcony, a shadow passed over the floor, broad, slow, and unmistakable. Sunsorrow shifted on its ridge. The world held its breath as if it could hear wings in the blood. They came beneath a white flag and a legend. The throne hall of Sunspear filled again with Dornish lords and careful eyes. Word had spread too widely now for secrecy. Men wanted to be present when history chose its shape. The air was heavy with perfume and sweat and the faint bite of fear. Jon stood beside Arianne at the foot of the dais. He wore black, as always, though he had loosened the collar because even stubbornness could not deny Dornish heat forever. His forearm was freshly rebandaged. The pain sat in his bones like a steady drum. Arianne stood tall, her expression composed, but Jon felt the tension beneath it. This was not merely politics for her. It was a door opening onto an old hallway of possibilities. Prince Doran sat above, calm and distant, blanket drawn over his legs, hands folded. Arianne stood behind him, long axe upright. The sand snakes watched from shadowed edges, Obara openly eager, Nymeria amused, Tyene smiling as if this were a play she already knew the ending of. The doors opened. A man strode in first, posture rigid with contained urgency. His hair was graying at the temples, his face sharp, his eyes the color of storm-cloud steel. A small pin shaped like a griffin caught the light on his cloak. He moved like a man who had once been young and arrogant and had learned the price of both. Jon Connington, Jon knew without being told. The name carried old war like a scar. Behind him walked the boy. He was not a boy in the way Tommen had been a boy. He carried himself with practiced grace, chin lifted, gaze steady. His hair was pale, silver gold in the torchlight, and his eyes, purple unmistakably, swept the hall with calm assessment. Aegon Targaryen, or someone wearing the name like a crown. The hall's murmurs rose and died. Dornish lords stared as if seeing a ghost. Some made the sign of the seven. Others clenched fists around goblets. Old blood remembered older oaths. Jon Connington halted before the dais and bowed stiffly. "Prince Doran Martell," he said, voice carrying. "I come in the name of His Grace Aegon Targaryen, sixth of his name, rightful king of the Undulls, the Rhoynar, and the First Men." The words rang through Sunspear like thrown gauntlets. Aegon stepped forward, and when he bowed, it was deep and correct, the bow of a prince taught from cradle. "Prince Doran," he said, and his voice held warmth carefully measured. "Princess Arianne, House Martell has suffered for my house. I have come to repay that debt with justice." Arianne's eyes flickered, just once. Jon felt it in her like a heartbeat quickening, then controlled again. Doran's face did not change. "Many men have come promising justice," he said softly. "Few have delivered it." Aegon's gaze remained steady. "I will," he said simply. "Tywin Lannister is dead, but the lion still sits in King's Landing, and the men who butchered Elia Martell lived too long. I will not ask you to forget." Jon Connington's eyes moved then, past Doran, past Arianne, landing on Jon Snow. The look sharpened, as if the older man had been struck by something unseen. Recognition, confusion. The steel in his eyes turned suddenly dangerous. Jon met the gaze without blinking. Aegon followed Connington's attention and looked at Jon for the first time fully. His purple eyes narrowed slightly, curious rather than hostile. "And you are?" he asked, though his tone implied he already suspected. Jon did not bow. He did not kneel. He stood as he had stood before kings and queens and monsters. "Jon Snow," he said, "King in the North." Murmurs rippled. Connington's jaw tightened. Aegon's mouth curved faintly, diplomatic. "Then we are both kings, it seems," he said. "Or both men called kings." Arianne's voice cut in, calm and sharp. "And what does your grace seek from Dorne?" she asked. Aegon turned to her, and the warmth in his face deepened, careful, calculated. "Alliance," he said. "Spears, ships, the strength of Dorne to finish what was stolen. To take King's Landing and end the Lions." "And in return?" Arianne pressed. Aegon's gaze held hers. "A place at my side," he said. "A place for Dorne as it has never had before. Not as subjects, as partners, as family." The hall held its breath. Jon felt something cold settle in his gut. Not because of the offer itself. Offers were words were cheap. But because he saw how neatly Aegon had placed the lure where it would bite. Arianne did not move. "Family," she repeated softly. Aegon's eyes flicked briefly toward Jon, then back. "I have heard," he said carefully, "that you are wed." Arianne's chin lifted. "I am," she said, "to Jon Snow." Connington's eyes sharpened again, anger flashing like a drawn knife. For a heartbeat, Jon thought the man might speak something reckless. Doran spoke first, voice quiet, cutting. "Then your grace has arrived too late for that particular dream," he said. Aegon's expression did not crack, but Jon saw the flicker behind it. Disappointment, quickly buried, replaced with calculation. "Then I will not insult you by pretending my plans have not changed," Aegon said. "But I did not cross the narrow sea to chase only marriage. I crossed to claim my father's realm." His gaze returned to Jon, sharper now. "And I did not expect to find another king married into Dorne with a dragon perched above Sunspear," he added, the words soft, the meaning heavy. The hall's air tightened. Jon felt Sunsorrow's shadow in his mind, distant but awake. Doran's calm voice came again. "Then let us speak plainly," he said. "Not of dreams, of war." They moved from spectacle into strategy, and the room grew smaller for it. A map was spread across a long table, weighted down with carved stones. The Stormlands were inked in green and brown. The Reach sprawled fat and rich, the crownlands tight around King's Landing like a clenched fist. Little pins marked castles taken and castles wavering. Aegon stood over it with the ease of someone taught to treat maps as inheritance. Jon Connington leaned close beside him, one hand braced on the table, his other finger tracing routes like a blade along flesh. Golden Company officers hovered behind, faces hard, eyes trained to see weaknesses in lines. Dornish lords watched too, tense and suspicious. House Yronwood's men looked as if they tasted sour wine each time Aegon spoke of realm and right. The sand snakes watched like wolves at the edge of a herd. Doran listened more than he spoke, his calm presence anchoring the room. Arianne stood beside Jon, spine straight, chin lifted, and Jon felt her pride like heat at his shoulder. Aegon began with confidence. "We have footholds," he said, pointing. "Griffin's Roost, several smaller keeps. Lords are turning, slowly. Many are tired of Lannisters and Tyrells. If we move fast, we can take Storm's End. From there, King's Landing." Davos grunted. "Storm's End doesn't fall easy," he muttered. Connington's eyes flashed. "It will," he said, voice edged. "Not with brute force, with the right keys." Jon studied the map without touching it. "And the Reach?" he asked. Aegon's expression tightened a fraction. "The Reach is complicated," he admitted. "Mace Tyrell, maybe dead tomorrow," Davos cut in. "Or alive, or on whichever side pays him in pride." Aegon's mouth twitched faintly. "Exactly," he said. "But once King's Landing is taken, the rest will bend." Jon's gaze lifted. And while you take King's Landing, he said, the dead march south. The room stilled. Connington's eyes narrowed. Ghost stories, he said flatly. Aegon's gaze flicked to Connington, then back to Jon, curious. The reports are confused, Aegon said carefully. I have heard of wildings, of northern troubles, but dead men walking. They walk, Jon said, and his voice carried the weight of truth that did not care whether others believed. I've seen them. I fought them. They don't want thrones. They want everything to stop breathing. One Golden Company officer snorted quietly, contempt hiding behind a cough. Arianne's voice snapped. Do not mock what you have not faced, she said. My husband is not a man given to superstition. Connington's jaw tightened. Your husband, he repeated, and the words tasted bitter to him. Doran lifted a hand. Enough, he said softly, and the room obeyed. His calm made argument look childish. He turned his gaze to Aegon. Whether the dead are myth or not, Doran said, winter is real, hunger is real, war is real, and dragons. His eyes flicked upward as if he could see through ceiling and stone to the ridge beyond. Are real. Aegon's eyes sharpened. Your dragon, he said slowly. How loyal is it? Jon felt the question like a hook. Loyal is not the word, he said. It listens. It accepts me. It does not take riders easily. Aegon's gaze held Jon's, and in that purple stare Jon saw ambition flicker. Controlled, but present. The boy wanted the dragon. Of course he did. Any prince would. Connington leaned closer to Aegon, murmuring something too low to hear. Aegon's face did not change, but his eyes cooled slightly. Arianne shifted, her hand brushing Jon's sleeve as if reminding him she was there, as if reminding everyone. Aegon straightened. We need not be enemies, he said smoothly. The realm is wide enough for allies. I ask Dorne to stand with me. I ask the North to stand with me. Together we end the lions. Together we rebuild. Jon's mouth tightened. Together, he echoed. Davos leaned in, voice rough but practical. And if the North won't kneel? He asked bluntly. Connington's eyes flashed. Then the North will be treated as rebels, he snapped. Arianne's gaze went sharp as a spear. Careful, she warned. Jon did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The North won't be threatened, he said quietly. Not by lions, not by dragons, not by boys with sellswords. The room felt suddenly smaller, air thick with the promise of violence. Aegon's expression stayed composed, but his eyes hardened. And what would you have? He asked. Jon looked down at the map again, at King's Landing, at Winterfell far off the parchment's edge, at the blank white space where no ink could show what waited in snow and darkness. I would have you look north, Jon said. Before you bleed the realm dry fighting for a chair that won't matter if everyone is dead. Doran watched them both, calm as still water. Perhaps, he said softly, the first test between dragons is not whose claim is louder, but whose duty is heavier. Aegon's jaw tightened. Connington's hands curled into fists. And somewhere above Sunspear, unseen but felt, Sunsorrow shifted, as if restless at the tension in Jon's blood. Night brought no peace. It only gave thoughts sharper teeth. Jon walked the sea wall with Davos beside him, listening to waves strike rock and pull back again, relentless as time. Torches burned along the parapet, their light making the sea look like hammered black metal. Wind off the water cooled Jon's burned skin and made his bandages sting. Davos was silent for a long stretch, as if weighing words like coins, and Jon let him. Davos was one of the few men Jon trusted to speak truth without dressing it in pride. At last Davos cleared his throat. That boy wants your dragon, he said. Jon's mouth tightened. I know. Davos's gaze stayed on the dark horizon. And that older one, Connington, he wants your head, Davos added. Jon let out a slow breath. He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. Davos said, and his voice roughened. Maybe he has. Jon's fingers pressed into stone. He thought of Doran's scrolls. of Lyanna's name spoken in torchlit dark, of Ned's silence, of the way Connington's eyes had sharpened like a man recognizing an old wound. "If he suspects," Jon murmured, "he'll tell Aegon." Davos's mouth twisted. "If he's smart, he already has," he said. "Or he will soon." Men who follow princes don't like surprises, especially ones that threaten their prince. Jon stared up toward the ridge. Sunsorrow's silhouette sat against the stars, vast and still. Even at this distance, Jon felt the dragon's presence like heat held in the chest. Davos followed his gaze. "Never thought I'd see one again," he said quietly. "Not after the last." His voice carried old memories. Stannis, Melisandre, fire, folly. Jon's jaw clenched. "I don't want this," he said, and the confession came out rawer than he intended. "I wanted allies, beers, ships. I didn't come south hunting for..." He stopped, because the word dragon still felt absurd in his mouth. Davos's eyes flicked to him. "But it's yours," he said, "and whether you wanted it or not, it makes you something men will kill for." Jon's bandaged hand flexed. Pain flared. "I'm already something men want to kill," he said flatly. Davos nodded, conceding. Then he leaned his elbows on the wall, staring down at the waves. "Listen," he said, voice low. "If that boy takes King's Landing, he'll have half the realm chanting his name. And if he's got half the realm, he'll think he can take the other half too." Jon said nothing. He knew. "And if he decides the North must kneel," Davos continued, "he'll come for you, not tomorrow, not next moon, but he will, because kings don't like other kings." Jon's gaze stayed on the horizon. "Then I won't let him," he said. Davos's voice sharpened slightly. "You won't, how?" "With words." He gestured subtly upward, toward the ridge. "Or with that." Jon's throat tightened. "I won't burn the realm because of pride," he said. Davos held his gaze, steady. "Then don't," he said. "But you can still show strength without slaughter. Strength makes men cautious. Caution buys time. Time is what you need if the dead are coming." Jon exhaled slowly. The waves hissed below like distant whispers. "What are you saying?" Jon asked. Davos's mouth tightened. "I'm saying," he replied, "you might need to meet that boy on your terms. Not in a hall where he can smile and talk about partnership while his men count your spears. Out in the open, in the air, where a dragon shadow makes claims sound smaller." Jon's eyes narrowed. "Fly to him." Davos nodded once. He said, "not to threaten, to make him listen, and to make everyone watching understand that Dorne and the North are not prizes." Jon's gaze stayed on the horizon. The decision was already taking shape inside him, cold and hard. A gust of wind rose, and the torches bent. Far out on the water, a ship's lanterns bobbed. Moving, slow, purposeful. Jon's spine tightened. "That ship," he said. Davos followed his gaze. "Could be a traitor," he murmured. "Could be a spy. Could be worse." Jon felt Sunsorrow stir above, wings shifting with a leathery whisper. The dragon was awake. The dragon listened. Jon's voice dropped. "If they bring more knives," he said, "they'll get more than smoke." Davos's eyes stayed on him. "And if the dead bring winter," he said quietly, "you'll need every living man you can gather, boy kings included." Jon closed his eyes briefly and let the wind off the sea cool the heat inside him. Then he opened them again, decision hardening like frost. "Tomorrow," Jon said, "we answer Aegon." The raven came like a shard of the north, wrong in Sunspear's sun. It fluttered into the rookery at midday, wings dusty with travel, claws scraping wood. The maester caught it gently, and when he produced the scroll, the seal was gray wax pressed with a direwolf. Jon's chest tightened before he even broke it. Arianne stood close enough to read over his shoulder, though she did not touch him. Davos lingered behind them, his face already grim as if he could smell bad news in the wax. Jon broke the seal. Sansa's hand was steady, the letters clean and controlled, but Jon could hear her voice in every line. practical, urgent, refusing to crumble. Winterfell had received his earlier raven. The North had reacted as he expected. Disbelief first, then fear, then the cold acceptance that the world kept changing without asking. Sansa wrote that the lords had argued about dragons and southern alliances, and then she wrote the part that made Jon's blood go cold. The dead had been seen again, not rumors this time, not wildling tales. A patrol near Last Hearth had found bodies frozen upright as if the cold had snapped them into statues. Their eyes were gone. Their throats were torn open from within. Tracks in the snow showed dragging, not by wolves, but by something that moved without caring for weight. A second report, worse, spoke of a village burned in the night, not by flame but by cold so intense the wood split like bone. Survivors babbled about pale riders in the trees, about silence that swallowed screams. Sansa's words tightened. The wall is holding, for now, but the night is moving. We need you. If you cannot come, send help. Send anything. At the end, in a smaller hand that felt almost like the girl she had once been, she wrote, "Don't die down there. Not when we finally have you back." Jon's vision blurred for a heartbeat. He blinked hard, forcing it away. Arianne's voice came quiet. "It's worse," she said, not asking. Jon nodded slowly. "It's starting," he whispered. Davos let out a low curse. "Seven save us," he muttered, then seemed to realize again that the seven did not live in this heat. Or any gods that'll listen. Arianne's eyes were on Jon's face, reading him the way she read politics. "You want to fly north," she said. Jon's mouth tightened. "I want to," he said. "But if I leave now, Dorne becomes unstable. Aegon presses. Cersei sends knives. Doran needs unity." Arianne's jaw clenched. "And the North needs you," she said, and Jon heard the conflict in her. Not jealousy, not resentment, but the bitter truth that duty never asked permission. Jon folded the letter carefully, hands trembling slightly. "We need allies," he said. "Allies who believe. If Aegon keeps calling it ghost stories, he'll waste the realm on King's Landing while the dead crawl over his walls later." Arianne's gaze sharpened. "Then make him believe," she said. Jon looked up at her, and for a moment the fierceness in her eyes matched his exactly. "I will," he said. Davos nodded once, grim approval. "Good," he muttered, "because if you don't, we'll be fighting both lions and ice with half a realm turned the wrong way." Jon's hand closed around the direwolf-sealed parchment like it was a weapon. Outside the rookery, the sun blazed bright. Inside Jon's chest, the North's cold settled like iron. He could not be everywhere. So he would force the realm to come where it was needed. Not all threats came wearing a lion's grin. Nymeria Sand found the first thread of it the way spiders found vibration in web. She brought it to Arianne in a whisper, and Arianne brought Jon into it with a look that held more anger than surprise. "Yronwood," Nymeria said simply. Jon's jaw tightened. "He swore unity," Jon muttered. Nymeria's smile was lazy and cold. "Men swear many things when they're watched," she said. "Then they do what they want in shadows." They did not confront Lord Anders Yronwood openly. Doran forbade it. "If you accuse a man without proof," he said softly, "you create the proof by making him your enemy." So Arianne hunted proof. They moved through Sunspear's corridors in silence, guided by Nymeria's informants. Servants who had learned long ago that secrets were currency and survival. Arianne kept her face calm, but Jon could feel the tension in her like heat. They found Yronwood in a narrow corridor near a storage chamber, speaking with two armored men whose cloaks bore no sigil. One man held a small vial that caught torchlight briefly, glass, pale liquid inside. Yronwood's voice was low. "Not in the hall," he was saying. "Not in front of the prince. You do it where it looks like accident. A fall, a fever. The North can keep its king. Dorne does not need a wolf on its throat." Jon's blood went cold, then hot. Arianne's fingers curled on her dagger hilt, knuckles white. Nymeria's hand rested lightly on her arm, a restraining touch that said, "Wait." The armored man with the vial nodded. "And the beast?" he asked. Yronwood's mouth tightened. "If the wolf dies," he said, "the beast becomes loose. Then Sunspear must choose a Dornish hand to hold the leash." Arianne's eyes blazed. Nymeria leaned to her ear. "Now," she whispered. Arianne stepped out from behind the column like a storm made flesh. "Lord Anders," she said, voice calm enough to cut. "What leash is it you speak of?"
Yronwood spun, face flushing.
For a heartbeat, he looked like a man caught with blood on his hands. Then pride hardened him. "Princess," he said stiffly, eyes darting to Jon. "You were plotting murder," Arianne snapped. The calm cracked, fire showing through. "In my father's house, under my roof." Yronwood's jaw clenched. "For Dorne," he said, and the words came out like justification. "A wolf king with a dragon is not an ally. It is a threat. Dorne does not kneel." Jon stepped forward, voice low. "No one asked you to kneel," he said. "I asked you to live." One of the armored men moved, hand going to sword hilt. Jon saw it and shifted his stance, ready despite injury. Nymeria smiled faintly and flicked her wrist. From the shadow behind Yronwood, Obara Sand surged forward, spear in hand. The spear's point kissed the armored man's throat. He froze. Tyene Sand stepped from another doorway, her smile sweet, a dagger resting lightly between her fingers like a promise. "Please," she murmured to the second armored man. "Don't make this messy." Yronwood's face went pale, then red with rage. "You would threaten me?" he snarled. Arianne's eyes were cold. "I would gut you," she said softly. "But my father would call it civil war. So instead I will do something crueler." She turned her head slightly. "Ario," she called. Ario Hoda appeared from the corridor's far end as if summoned by the word alone. Long axe in hand, face unreadable. Arianne stepped closer to Yronwood until her shadow fell over him. "You will walk with Ario Hoda," she said. "To my father. You will explain your vials and your leashes, and then you will pray he is still patient." Yronwood's chest heaved. His pride fought like a trapped animal. Then his gaze flicked to Obara's spear point, to Tyene's dagger, to Jon's eyes, cold and steady. Finally, he exhaled through clenched teeth. "Very well," he spat. As Ario Hoda moved to escort him, a low rumble rolled through the palace stone. Sunsorrow stirred above. Jon felt the bond tighten in his chest like warning. Even the dragon, it seemed, disliked whispers of poison. The decision was made in the wind. Jon stood on the ridge with Sunsorrow at his side, and the world below looked small. Sunspear's pale walls, its orange groves, the thin glittering line of canals. The sea burned red-orange beneath the setting sun, as if the water itself had caught fire and refused to go out. Sunsorrow's scales glowed softly in that light. The dragon lifted its head and tasted the air, restless. Jon could feel the creature's impatience, the desire to rise and leave stone behind. Arianne stood several paces back with Davos, arms folded tight. She wore determination like armor, but Jon could see the strain around her eyes. She hated not being part of the bond, hated standing outside the circle of fire. Jon placed his bandaged hand on Sunsorrow's muzzle. The heat seeped through cloth into his skin. The dragon's eye narrowed, then softened slightly, not gentler, but less ready to burn. "We're going," Jon said quietly. Sunsorrow exhaled smoke as if answering. Davos shifted his weight. "To the Stormlands," he said, stating what they all knew. Jon nodded. "To Aegon," he said. "On my terms. In the open." Arianne's voice came sharp. "And what do I do?" she asked. "Wait here like a hostage to my own city?" Jon turned his head toward her. "You hold Sunspear," he said. "You hold Dorne. If I die—" He stopped because saying the word felt like inviting it. Arianne's eyes flashed. "If you die," she said fiercely, "I will burn every lion, every griffin, every fool who thought they could take what we built. I will not be left behind." Jon held her gaze. The truth sat heavy between them. She could not ride Sunsorrow. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The dragon's acceptance did not extend beyond Jon's blood, whatever blood that truly was. "I'll come back," Jon said, and he knew how hollow it sounded. He had promised that before to too many people. Arianne's mouth tightened, but she nodded once, hard. "Then take something with you," she said. Jon frowned. "What?" Arianne stepped forward, pulling a ring from her finger. Gold set with a small red stone like a captured ember. She pressed it into Jon's palm. "Dorne's seal," she said. "Not my father's."
Mine.
"If you speak for Dorne, speak with Dorne in your hand." Jon stared at the ring, then closed his fingers around it. "I don't need proof," he said. Arianne's smile was thin. "Men do," she replied. "Men believe symbols more than words." Davos cleared his throat. "And if Aegon tries to take your dragon?" he asked bluntly. Jon's gaze slid to Sunsorrow's eye. "He'll fail," Jon said. Arianne's voice dropped. "Don't threaten him too openly," she warned. "He will become your enemy out of pride." Jon's mouth tightened. "Then I'll threaten him with truth," he said. "The dead are coming. Either he helps, or he dies like everyone else." Sunsorrow shifted, claws scraping stone. The sound made Arianne flinch despite herself. Jon pressed his forehead briefly to the dragon's muzzle. A silent pact. Then he climbed. Pain lanced through his arms as he pulled himself onto the ridges, but he welcomed it. Pain was simple compared to politics. Pain obeyed rules. He settled into place, legs tight, breath steady. The wind hit his face harder up here, smelling of salt and distant storms. Jon looked down one last time. Arianne stood below, hair whipping, eyes bright, jaw clenched like she could bite the sky into obedience. Davos stood beside her, smaller than he had ever looked, but steady. Jon lifted his hand, ring clenched in fist, and Arianne lifted hers in answer. Then Jon leaned forward. "Up," he whispered. Sunsorrow launched into the red sky like a spear thrown by a god. The world became wind and distance. Sunsorrow climbed fast, wings beating with a rhythm that felt like thunder in Jon's bones. The heat of the dragon beneath him was constant, a living furnace, but the air grew cooler as they rose, biting Jon's cheeks, drying the sweat into salt on his skin. Below, the sea stretched endless and darkening, broken by jagged islands, the stepstones, like black teeth rising from foam. Waves crashed white against rock, and the spray glittered briefly in the last light before falling back into shadow. Jon leaned low, gripping the ridges with bandaged hands. Pain flared each time the dragon shifted. He forced himself to breathe through it, to keep his body calm so the dragon would not taste fear in him. Far off to the east, lanterns bobbed ships, a small fleet moving like a slow predator across water. Their sails looked dark against the fading sky, and even from this height Jon felt the wrongness of them, the sense of purpose in their line. Pirates, maybe, spies, maybe, or something worse. Sunsorrow banked slightly, the movement so smooth it made Jon's stomach lurch. The dragon's head angled toward the fleet, interest sparking. Jon felt the creature's hunger like heat in his chest. "No," Jon murmured, voice lost in wind. "Not now." The dragon's eye flicked back toward him, amber slit sharp. Jon pressed his legs tighter, intent clear in his body. The dragon snorted smoke, annoyed, but turned away, climbing again. Stormlands lay ahead, hidden beneath night's creeping shadow. Jon could not see castles from this height, but he could see the land's shape, dark ridges, rivers like silver scars, the faint glow of distant fires. War made its own stars. As they flew, Jon's thoughts sharpened into a single line. He would make Aegon listen. He would make Connington stop calling the dead ghost stories. He would force them to look north, even if it meant turning princes into enemies. A dragon did not solve every problem. It did, however, make men pause long enough to hear unpleasant truth. Sunsorrow roared once into the darkening sky, a sound so vast it seemed to shake the stars into place. Jon felt it in his ribs and wondered how many men below heard it and looked up in fear. Let them look, Jon thought grimly. Let them remember there is something above their pride. The dragon's wings beat again, and the sea fell away behind them. The Golden Company camp looked orderly from the sky. Rows of tents, fires set in clean circles, sentries placed with discipline. It looked like a machine built to kill and not waste motion. Then Sunsorrow's shadow crossed it, and the machine became flesh again. Flesh that feared burning. Men shouted. Horses screamed. Campfires were knocked over in sudden panic, sparks scattering. A line of spears tried to form, then faltered, because spears felt laughable when a dragon's wings blotted out the stars. Sunsorrow descended with a heavy beat, landing beyond the outer tents where ground was firmer. The impact shook earth. Dust billowed. Heat rolled outward in a wave that made men stagger. Jon slid down, boots hitting hard. His legs trembled slightly from the long flight. He forced steadiness into them and stepped forward, keeping his body calm. Sunsorrow's head swung, watching the camp, eyes glowing amber in torchlight. Smoke curled from its nostrils, and every soldier who saw it took a step back. Jon Connington appeared first, rushing from between tents, cloak snapping in wind, face tight with fury and shock. His hand went to his sword hilt before he seemed to remember how useless steel was here. "You?" Connington snapped, eyes burning as he stared at Jon. "What madness is this?" Jon did not raise his voice. "This is reality," he said. Connington's eyes flicked to Sunsorrow, then back. "You bring it into my camp without warning," he said, the words shaking with controlled rage. "You could have caused a stampede. Men could have died." "They will," Jon replied, and his tone made Connington falter. "If you keep pretending the only war is for King's Landing." Aegon stepped out of his command tent then, flanked by 2 officers. Firelight caught his hair, turning it into pale flame. His purple eyes widened as he took in Sunsorrow fully, and for a moment he looked younger, like a boy seeing the thing his whole life had promised him. Then his face settled back into princely control. "Jon Snow," Aegon said, voice steady. "You arrived dramatically." Jon's mouth tightened. "I arrived in the only language men listen to," he said. Aegon's gaze flicked briefly to Sunsorrow's massive foreclaw, to the smoke curling in the air, then back to Jon. "Do you threaten me?" he asked softly. Connington's hand hovered near his sword again, as if he might die trying anyway. Jon shook his head once. "I warn you," he said. "There's a difference." Aegon held Jon's gaze, pride and curiosity tangled behind purple eyes. "Then warn," he said. Jon took a slow breath. The wind carried smoke and salt. The camp watched, hundreds of eyes, soldiers who had crossed the narrow sea for a king, now staring at a dragon and wondering if their story had just become a lie. Jon's voice carried into the hush. "The dead are coming," he said. "Not rumors, not wildling tales. An army that does not tire, does not hunger, does not negotiate. They will drown your victory in cold if you keep chasing crowns." Aegon's expression tightened. "You have no proof," he said, though his tone held less certainty than before. Jon's bandaged hand clenched. "I have scars," he said. "I have graves. I have men who watched their brothers rise again with blue eyes." Connington's mouth twisted. "Northern hysteria," he spat. Jon's gaze snapped to Connington, cold as drawn steel. "You call it hysteria because you haven't heard the sound of a dead man breathing," Jon said. "Because you haven't watched fire fail when cold is older." Aegon lifted a hand, quieting Connington without looking back. His eyes stayed on Jon, and Jon saw something shift there, calculation, yes, but also the first hairline crack in certainty. "And what would you have me do?" Aegon asked, voice low. Jon looked past Aegon, past the campfires toward the north, toward land he could not see but could feel like a wound. "I would have you stop," Jon said. "Not forever, but long enough to send men north, to see, to believe, to prepare. Because if you take King's Landing and the dead take the realm behind you, you'll die on a throne of ashes and ice." Aegon's jaw clenched. Pride fought sense behind his eyes. Then he spoke carefully, like a man stepping onto thin ice. If I delay, he said, my enemies strengthen. The lions regroup. The reach shifts. The realm slips away. Jon's voice was blunt. Then let it slip, he said. Better to lose a city than lose the world. The camp held its breath. Sunsorrow rumbled low, the sound vibrating through the ground as if the dragon itself approved of Jon's hardness. Aegon stared at Jon a long moment, then slowly nodded once. Small, reluctant. Come, Aegon said at last. We will speak in private. Connington's eyes flared with outrage, but Aegon did not look at him. The boy king turned and walked toward his tent. Jon followed. Behind him, Sunsorrow settled, smoke curling into night, a living shadow guarding the conversation that would decide whether the realm lived long enough to keep arguing. The tent smelled of leather and ink and cold ambition. Lanterns hung from poles, their light steady despite the wind outside. A map of Westeros lay spread across a table, but this one was different from the polished court maps in Sunspear. This one was scarred with use. Creases, smudges, small pinholes where blades had stabbed decisions into paper. Aegon stood at the table's edge, hands clasped behind his back like a prince trained to hide nerves. Connington stood to his right, rigid with fury he could barely contain. Davos Seaworth had followed Jon in, invited by Jon with a glance, because Davos understood men and would see traps before Jon did. Aegon gestured toward the map. Show me, he said, voice controlled. Where does this threat begin? Jon stepped to the table and pointed north. Far north, beyond Winterfell, beyond the last inked keep. Beyond the wall, he said. In places your maps don't bother to name. Connington sneered. Fairy lands, he muttered. Jon ignored him. He traced down the map's edge, down the spine of the realm. If the wall falls, Jon said, the dead pour into the north. Then they keep coming. They don't stop at Moat Cailin. They don't stop at the neck. They don't stop until the realm is silent. Aegon's gaze stayed on Jon's finger as if the line were a knife pressed to his throat. And you swear this is true, he said. Jon met his eyes. On everything, he said. On the north. On my father's grave. On my own life. Connington's jaw tightened at the word father, as if it struck him. His eyes sharpened on Jon again, but he said nothing. Aegon's voice softened slightly. If you are right, he said, then the throne is meaningless. It becomes meaningless, Jon corrected, unless you use it to unite people before they die. Aegon's hands tightened behind his back. And if you are wrong, he said, then you ask me to waste the moment my enemies are weakest. Jon did not flinch. Then you'll lose time, he said. Not the realm. Aegon stared at him, wrestling with the weight. Connington leaned in, voice low and urgent. Your grace, this is. A sudden commotion at the tent flap cut him off. A soldier stumbled in, breath ragged, holding a raven with trembling hands. The bird's feathers were matted at the wingtip, dark with blood. A scroll hung from its leg, the wax seal cracked. Aegon's head snapped up. From where? He demanded. The soldier swallowed hard. From Storm's End, your grace, he said. A rider brought it from the North Road, said it was passed from keep to keep as fast as horses could run. Aegon tore the message free and broke the wax with impatient fingers. His eyes moved across the ink. Then his face changed. The practiced control cracked. For the first time since Jon had met him, Aegon looked truly frightened. Connington leaned in to read, and the color drained from his face too. Aegon's voice came out hoarse. Eastwatch, he whispered. Gone. Jon's stomach dropped. He stepped forward, snatching the scroll gently but firmly. The ink was smeared in places, as if written with shaking hands. The words were blunt, hurried, soaked in panic. Eastwatch by the sea has fallen. Ships destroyed. Dead in the water. The wall shudders. Send help. Send fire. Jon's breath went cold. Davos swore under his breath, the sound like prayer and curse together. Connington stared at the scroll as if it were poison. No, he said, but it was not denial of ink. It was denial of a world that did not fit his story. Aegon looked up at Jon, purple eyes wide, and the boy king's pride had nowhere to hide now. "Is this your proof?" he whispered. Jon's voice was low, rough. "This is the beginning," he said. Outside the tent, faintly, the roar of Sunsorrow rolled across the camp, distant but unmistakable. Men shouted, horses screamed. Panic stirred like fire through dry grass. Aegon's throat worked. "If the wall falls," he said, voice trembling with the first true fear of a king, "then everything stops," Jon finished. Aegon's gaze locked on Jon's. For a heartbeat, Jon saw the man Aegon could become, either a ruler who understood duty or a boy swallowed by pride. Aegon swallowed hard. Then slowly he nodded. "We send men," he said. The words came like a surrender and a coronation at once. "We send scouts. We send supplies. We send..." His eyes flicked, unwillingly, toward the tent opening, toward the shadow of the dragon outside. Fire! Jon felt relief and dread crash together in his chest. Connington's face twisted, anger and fear warring, but he did not argue now. The message had killed argument the way cold killed flame. Jon folded the scroll carefully, as if it were fragile, and looked at Aegon with hard certainty. "This isn't a northern war anymore," Jon said. "It's everyone's." Aegon nodded again, tighter this time, and the boy king's voice hardened into something closer to steel. "Then," he said, "we will see if the realm deserves saving." Outside, Sunsorrow's shadow moved across canvas like a living dusk, and far to the north, ice cracked against stone.